She watched him choose another. Veratis had always known this day would come. For what felt like an eternity, she had carried the shadow bond in silence, a secret tethering her soul to the Alpha King of Valanthos, without his knowledge, without his consent. She had saved his life once in the wildwood, and something ancient had awakened between them. Something that was never supposed to happen to someone like her. So she stood in the crowd at the choosing ceremony, hidden among hundreds of wolves who had gathered to witness their king finally take a mate. She watched him walk past noblewomen and princesses. She watched him stop in front of Amaris Valdrin, the most beautiful Omega in 5 kingdoms. And she watched him sink his teeth into Amaris's throat while the hall erupted in celebration. The moment his mark touched another woman's skin, Veratis felt the shadow bond snap fully into place. Impossible, agonizing, irreversible. A scream built in her chest, but she swallowed it whole, because she understood what this meant. The ancient texts had warned of this. When a shadow bond activates during another's marking, both the bonded and the king will die slowly, their souls tearing apart in opposite directions. Unless she disappeared completely. So Veratis ran. She fled the great hall, fled the kingdom, and fled everything she had ever known. She vanished into the wilds beyond Valanthos and vowed never to be found. But the Alpha King woke days later with her name on his lips and a bond burning through his chest that he had never claimed. A bond to a woman he barely remembered, a woman who had vanished like smoke. They said he went mad searching for her. They said he tore his kingdom apart, stone by stone. They said he abandoned his marked mate, defied his counsel, and destroyed alliances that had stood for centuries, all for a woman who did not want to be found. What he did not know was that finding her would destroy everything he believed about himself. And what she did not know was that staying hidden would destroy them both. The great hall of Valanthos had never held so many wolves. Veratis pressed herself against a pillar near the back, her hood drawn low, her scent masked with crushed thorn root. She should not have come. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to run, and to put as much distance between herself and this ceremony as possible. But she had spent years loving him in secret. She needed to see him one last time before he belonged to someone else. The hall blazed with torchlight. Tapestries bearing the royal crest hung from every wall, silver wolves running across fields of black. Nobles in their finest silks whispered behind jeweled fans, speculating about which woman the king would choose. There were many candidates, princesses from distant realms, daughters of high lords, Omegas whose beauty had inspired songs. Veratis was none of these things. She was the daughter of a disgraced lord. Her mother had died bringing her into the world. Her father had blamed her for it every day until his own death. Now only her half-sister Seraphine remained, and Seraphine had made her feelings clear years ago. "You are a stain on our family name," she had said. "A criminal. A murderer. I wish you had never been born." The accusations were lies, but Veratis had never been able to prove it. So she had fled, leaving behind a sister who hated her and a reputation destroyed by whispers she could not silence. The bond had formed that fateful night in the wildwood. Veratis had been 17, wandering the forest edges where no wolf should wander alone. She had heard the sounds of battle first. Steel against steel. Snarling wolves. Then she had found him, the young king, barely crowned, surrounded by assassins and bleeding out onto the forest floor. She had not thought. She had simply acted. Her hands had pressed against his wounds. Her blood had mingled with his, and something ancient had stirred between them, a thread of light connecting her soul to his in a way that should have been impossible. Shadow bonds were myths. Stories told to children about fated mates whose souls recognized each other before their bodies ever could. They were not real, except they were. And Veratis had carried the proof inside her chest ever since. The great doors opened. Every head turned. Every whisper died. King Corvin Ashvale entered the hall, and Veratis forgot how to breathe. He was tall, devastatingly so, with shoulders broad enough to block out the torchlight behind him. His hair was dark as midnight, falling past his jaw in waves that made her fingers ache to touch. But it was his eyes that had always undone her. Gray eyes, pale as winter mist, cold and sharp and absolutely unreadable. He moved through the crowd like a blade through silk. Wolves parted before him, bowing their heads in submission. Even the alphas among them lowered their gazes. Because Corvain Ashvale was not merely a king, he was the most powerful wolf in living memory, descended from a bloodline so ancient it was said to carry the blessing of the moon goddess herself. And he was about to mark another woman as his mate. Veratis pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the shadow bond throb painfully. It knew. It always knew when he was near. Since that night in the wildwood, she had avoided him, stayed in shadows, watched from distances that kept the bond dormant. But tonight, in this crowded hall, surrounded by his presence, the thread between them was pulling tight. Corvain stopped in the center of the hall. His gaze swept across the crowd, past the princesses in their glittering gowns, past the noblewomen craning their necks for his attention. For one terrifying moment, his eyes seemed to pause in her direction, and Veratis's heart stopped entirely. But then he moved on. Of course he did. He had never noticed her. Not once in all these years. The shadow bond connected her to him, but he felt nothing in return. That was the cruelty of it. She was bound to a man who did not know she existed. The king walked toward the raised platform where the candidates waited. 12 women stood in a line, each more beautiful than the last. They were dressed in white, the traditional color of unclaimed omegas, their hair adorned with moonflowers. And at the center of the line stood Amaris Valdrin, golden hair cascading down her back like spun sunlight. Eyes the color of spring leaves, a face so perfect it seemed carved by the gods themselves. Amaris was everything Veratis was not. Beautiful, noble, wanted. Corvain stopped in front of her. The hall held its breath. I choose you, the king said, his voice carrying through the silence. Amaris of House Valdrin, will you accept my mark and become queen of Valanthos? Amaris smiled, radiant and triumphant. I accept, your majesty. The crowd erupted in cheers. Veratis should have looked away. She should have fled right then, before what came next. But she could not move, could not breathe, could only watch as Corvain tilted Amaris's head to the side, exposing the elegant column of her throat. His fangs descended. He bit down. And the moment his teeth pierced Amaris's skin, Veratis felt the shadow bond inside her chest explode into full, agonizing life. Pain ripped through her so violently that she nearly screamed. The thread that had connected her to Corvain for so long suddenly pulled tight, snapping into place like a chain forged in fire. She could feel him. Not just his presence, but his heartbeat, his confusion, his complete lack of feeling as he marked another woman. He felt nothing for Amaris, but he could feel her now. She knew it the moment his head jerked up from Amaris's throat, his gray eyes widening in shock, scanning the crowd with sudden desperate urgency. The bond had activated. Impossible. This was impossible. Shadow bonds were not supposed to activate during another's marking. They were supposed to remain dormant unless both parties acknowledged them. But something had gone wrong. Something ancient and terrible had awakened, and now the bond was burning through her chest like molten iron. Veratis stumbled backward, knocking into another wolf. Watch yourself, someone snarled. She did not apologize. She ran. Through the crowd, past the guards, out of the great hall and into the cold night air. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to give out. She ran until the castle was a distant silhouette against the stars. And then she collapsed against a tree, gasping for breath. Her hand pressed against the bond that was now screaming inside her chest. She knew what this meant. The ancient texts had been clear. When a shadow bond activates during another's marking, the curse awakens. The king's soul becomes divided. torn between the mate he marked and the mate he was destined for. And unless the shadow bond is severed completely, both he and his true mate will die slowly, their souls unraveling like thread pulled from a tapestry. There was only one way to stop it. She had to disappear. Completely. Forever. If Corvain never found her, if the bond was never acknowledged, it might fade enough to save him. Veratus looked back at the castle one last time. Somewhere inside, the king was searching for her. She could feel his confusion through the bond, his desperate need to understand what had just happened. "I am sorry," she whispered to the wind. Then she turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind everything she had ever known. Corvain woke screaming her name. He did not know whose name it was. That was the worst part. The word tore from his throat like something alive, desperate and anguished, but the moment his eyes opened, it vanished from his memory. Only the echo remained, burning in his chest where no mark should be. He sat up gasping, drenched in sweat despite the cold. His chambers were dark. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows, casting silver shadows across the floor. Beside him, the bed was empty. Amaris had her own rooms, as was custom for the first week after marking. He should have felt relieved by her absence. Instead, he felt nothing. That was wrong. He had marked her days ago. By now, the mating bond should have settled into his bones like a second heartbeat. He should feel her emotions, sense her presence, and crave her nearness. That was how bonds worked. But there was nothing. A hollow space where connection should have been. Corvain pressed his palm against his chest, and pain lanced through him so sharply that he doubled over. "What in the God's name?" he gasped. There was something inside him, a thread, a pull, a bond that did not belong to Amaris. He stumbled out of bed and crossed to the window, bracing his hands against the cold stone. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, pale and haunted. Nothing like the composed king who had stood before his kingdom days ago. Something had happened at the ceremony. He remembered the moment clearly, the instant his fangs had pierced Amaris's throat. He had expected to feel the bond snap into place, expected the rush of connection that every mated pair described. Instead, he had felt her. A woman. Somewhere in the crowd. A presence so overwhelming, so achingly familiar, that he had nearly released Amaris and gone searching for the source. Her scent had hit him like a physical blow, like midnight rain and wild roses, like something he had been missing his entire life without knowing it. And then she was gone. He had searched the crowd with desperate eyes, but she had vanished. By the time the ceremony ended and he could break away from the celebrations, there was no trace of her. No scent trail. No witnesses. Nothing but the phantom ache in his chest that grew stronger with every passing hour. Now, days later, that ache had become agony. Corvain dressed quickly and summoned his most trusted guard, Brennick, a scarred alpha who had served him since childhood. "I need the guest registry from the ceremony," Corvain commanded. "Every name. Every wolf who entered the Great Hall that night." Brennick's expression remained neutral, but his eyes flickered with concern. "Your Majesty? Is something wrong? Just bring me the registry." An hour later, Corvain sat at his desk surrounded by scrolls, searching name after name for someone who sparked recognition. But there was nothing. Hundreds of wolves had attended the ceremony. Any one of them could have been her. The door opened without a knock. Amaris swept into the room, beautiful and regal in a gown of pale gold. Her mark stood fresh on her throat, 2 perfect punctures that should have connected them eternally. But when Corvain looked at her, he felt nothing. Less than nothing. "You were not at breakfast," Amaris said, her voice carrying the slightest edge of accusation. "The council was expecting us both. Something came up. Something more important than presenting ourselves as a united front before the realm?" She moved closer, and he caught her scent. Lilies and honey. It should have soothed him. Instead, his wolf recoiled. "Amaris," he said carefully, "when I marked you, Did you feel anything unusual? She blinked. Unusual? A pull, a presence, something that did not belong to us. Her lovely face went carefully blank. I felt you claim me as your mate. That is all that matters. But Corvain saw the flicker in her eyes, the brief moment of something that looked almost like fear. You felt it too, he said quietly. You know something happened. Nothing happened. Amaris's voice sharpened. You chose me, Corvain. You marked me. Whatever doubts you are having now, they are merely nerves. Every newly mated pair experiences them. She was lying. He was certain of it. But before he could press further, a knock came at the door. Enter, he called. A servant stepped inside, bowing low. Your Majesty, there is a matter requiring your attention. Lord Meriden reports that a woman has gone missing from the outer villages. Her family claims she was last seen the night of the ceremony. Corvain's heart stopped. Her name, he demanded. The servant consulted his notes. Veradis, Your Majesty. Daughter of the late Lord Halloran of the Eastern Holdings. Veradis. The name hit him like a thunderclap, the word he had screamed upon waking. The name burned into a part of his soul he had not known existed. Find her, Corvain commanded, rising from his chair. Send out search parties, trackers, every available guard. Amaris's expression twisted. You would mobilize the entire kingdom for some disgraced lord's daughter? Corvain did not look at her. I would burn this kingdom to the ground to find her. The words came out before he could stop them. Raw and honest and absolutely certain. He felt their truth in his bones. This woman, this Veradis, she was connected to him in ways he did not understand. And until he found her, until he understood what had happened at that ceremony, the agony in his chest would never stop. Amaris went pale. Corvain turned to Brennick. Everything you can find about Lord Halloran and his daughter, her history, her whereabouts, anyone who has ever spoken to her, I want it all. Your Majesty. Amaris's voice trembled with barely controlled rage. I am your mate, your queen. And you would chase after some nobody who disappeared from a village? Corvain finally looked at her, and something cold moved behind his eyes. You are marked, he said quietly. But you are not my mate. Something went wrong at that ceremony, Amaris, and until I discover what it was, you are nothing to me. He swept out of the room before she could respond, leaving his marked queen standing alone with fury etched across her beautiful face. Hours later, Brennick delivered his report. Veradis Halloran, daughter of a lord who had fallen from favor after accusations of treason. Mother dead in childbirth. Father dead 2 years past. One surviving relative, a half-sister named Seraphine, who had publicly denounced Veradis as a criminal. There is something else, Brennick said hesitantly. Tell me. Years ago, when you were attacked in the Wildwood, when you nearly died before the guards reached you. Brennick paused. Witnesses claim they saw a woman fleeing the scene. Young, dark hair. No one could identify her. Corvain's blood went cold. He had been ambushed by assassins. He had been bleeding out, certain he was going to die. And then, nothing. He had woken in his chambers days later with no memory of how he had survived. The healers said it was a miracle, but it was not a miracle. It was her. She had saved his life, and somehow, in doing so, she had bound herself to him in a way neither of them understood. The ache in his chest flared hotter, and Corvain finally understood what it was. A bond. A true bond. Not the empty marking he had given Amaris, but something ancient and absolute. A shadow bond, like the ones in the old stories. 2 souls connected by fate itself. And that bond was killing him. He could feel it now, the slow unraveling at the edges of his consciousness. The curse was real. A king divided between his marked mate and his true mate could not survive. His soul was being pulled in 2 directions, and unless he found Veradis, unless he understood what had happened, he would die. But finding her was only the first step. Because if the legends were true, the only way to break the curse was for one bond to be severed completely. and severing a shadow bond meant one of them would have to die. The village of Thornhallow clung to the edge of the wildwood like a secret whispered between trees. Veratus had found it 2 years ago, this forgotten place where outcasts gathered to survive. Wolves who had been exiled. Omegas who had fled abusive packs. Children with no families and nowhere else to go. Thornhallow was not on any map. It did not exist according to the kingdom's records. That was precisely why she had chosen it. Now, nearly a fortnight after fleeing the ceremony, Veratus stood in the village healer's hut, grinding herbs for a poultice. The repetitive motion soothed her frayed nerves. It kept her hands busy and her mind occupied with something other than the bond burning endlessly in her chest. He was searching for her. She could feel it through the bond, his desperation, his obsession. Every day the thread between them grew stronger. Every night she dreamed of gray eyes and a voice calling her name. "You are grinding those into dust." Veratus startled. An older woman stood in the doorway, white hair braided over one shoulder, eyes sharp despite the wrinkles framing them. "Sorry, Marin." Veratus set down the mortar and pestle. "I was distracted." Marin crossed to the fire and stirred the pot hanging over it. She had been the one to take Veratus in when she first arrived, no questions asked. The old healer had a gift for recognizing wounded souls. "You have been distracted since you returned," Marin said quietly. "Whatever happened at that ceremony is eating you alive." Veratus said nothing. "The bond is active now, is it not?" Marin continued without looking up. "That shadow bond you have been hiding all this time." Veratus's heart stopped. "How did you—" "Child, I have been healing wolves for 60 years. You think I do not recognize the signs?" Marin finally turned, her expression gentle but knowing. "The way you flinch whenever someone mentions the king. The way you press your hand against your chest when you think no one is watching. The way you fled this village weeks ago and returned looking like death itself." Veratus sank onto a stool, all the fight draining out of her. "I did not mean for it to happen." "No one ever does." Marin sat across from her. "Shadow bonds are not choices. They are gifts. Or curses, depending on how you look at them." "He marked someone else." The words scraped like broken glass. "At the ceremony. I watched him mark another woman, and the bond activated anyway. It should not have been possible." Marin's face went very still. "You were present when he marked his chosen mate?" "I needed to see him one last time. I thought if I watched him claim someone else, the bond might finally quiet. Instead—" Veratus pressed her palm against her chest where the thread pulsed like a second heartbeat. "Instead it woke up completely." "The Sundered King curse," Marin whispered. Veratus looked up sharply. "You know of it. Every healer worth their salt knows the old stories." Marin's voice was grim. "When a true bond activates during another's marking, the king's soul divides. He is pulled between two mates, and the division will eventually kill him. That is why I left. If he never finds me, if the bond remains unacknowledged, perhaps it will fade enough to spare him." "It will not." Marin shook her head. "You cannot outrun a shadow bond, Veratus. The more distance you put between you, the stronger the pull becomes. The king is already tearing his kingdom apart searching for you. I have heard the reports. He has abandoned his marked queen. He has defied his council. He has sent trackers into every corner of Valanthos." Fear coiled in Veratus's stomach. "He cannot find me here. Thornhallow is protected. For now." Marin studied her with those knowing eyes. "But eventually, someone will talk. Someone always does when enough gold is offered. And the king is offering a great deal of gold for information about a woman named Veratus." Veratus's blood ran cold. "He knows my name?" "He knows a great deal more than that." Marin rose and crossed to the window, peering out at the village square. "Child, I must ask you something, and I need you to answer truthfully." "What?" "In the Wildwood, when you formed the shadow bond with the king, what exactly did you do?" Veratus's hands began to shake. She had never told anyone the full truth of that night. Not even Marin. "I found him dying," she said quietly. "Assassins had ambushed him. He was bleeding out. I did not think. I just put my hands on his wounds. I tried to pull the darkness out of him." "You used your gift." "Yes." Marin turned slowly. "Veradis, your gift absorbs pain and darkness from others. When you used it on a dying king, what do you think happened?" "I saved his life." "You did more than that." Marin's voice was barely a whisper now. "You absorbed part of his soul, his pain, his darkness, his very essence. That is how the shadow bond formed. You are not merely connected to him. You are carrying a piece of him inside you." The world tilted. Veradis gripped the edge of the table to keep from falling. "No, that is not possible. It is the only explanation. Shadow bonds do not form through simple proximity. They require an exchange of souls. When you used your gift on him that night, you took part of him into yourself. And in return, without either of you knowing, you left part of yourself inside him. Then the curse. The curse activated because you completed the bond at the worst possible moment, when he marked another woman while your shared soul was already intertwined." Marin crossed back to her, gripping Veradis's trembling hands. "You are not running from a simple bond, child. You are running from a connection so deep that nothing in this world can sever it. Not distance, not time, not even death." Veradis could not breathe. "Then what do I do?" "I do not know." Marin's face was sorrowful. "But you cannot keep running. The bond is killing him, and eventually, it will kill you too." Before Veradis could respond, a horn sounded outside, 3 short blasts, the warning signal. Marin's face went pale. "Someone has found us." They rushed outside to find the village in chaos. Wolves were running toward the perimeter, grabbing weapons, herding children toward the hidden shelters. At the edge of the tree line, torches flickered in the darkness. "How many?" Veradis demanded. A scout appeared, breathless. "At least 30. Royal Guards. They are wearing the king's crest." Veradis's heart plummeted. He had found her. Somehow, impossibly, Corvain had tracked her to Thornhallow. "I have to leave," she said quickly. "If I draw them away, the village might be spared." "You will not survive out there alone. I will not let these people die for me." Veradis turned toward the eastern path, the one that led deeper into the wildwood. If she ran now, if she moved fast enough, she might be able to draw the guards away before they reached the village. But before she could take a single step, a figure emerged from the shadows directly in front of her. It was not one of the royal guards. The man was tall, dressed in black leather, his face obscured by a hood. But his scent hit her like a blow to the chest. Copper and ash, blood and dark magic. A scent she recognized from the worst night of her life. "Hello, little healer," the man said. "I have been looking for you." Veradis's blood turned to ice. She knew this man. He was one of the assassins who had attacked Corvain in the Wildwood all those years ago. The one who had escaped when the others died. The one whose darkness she had tasted when she healed the king. "You survived," she whispered. "Barely." The man pulled back his hood, revealing a face covered in twisted scars. "Your little healing trick nearly killed me. You absorbed the darkness from your precious king, but you had to put it somewhere. And that somewhere was me." Veradis's stomach turned. "I did not know." "Of course you did not. You had no idea what you were doing." He stepped closer, and she saw the madness burning in his eyes. "But I know exactly what you did. And I know exactly what you are. A shadowbinder. Someone who can absorb and transfer souls." "What do you want?" The assassin smiled, and it was terrible. "I want you to do it again. I want you to absorb the king's entire soul and transfer it to me. And then I want to watch him die, knowing that the woman he has been searching for is the one who killed him." Veradis backed away, but more figures emerged from the trees behind the assassin. 5, 10, 15 hooded wolves, all bearing the same copper and ash scent of dark magic. She was surrounded, and in the distance, coming from the opposite direction, she heard the thunder of approaching horses, the royal guards. The king himself was coming, and she was trapped directly between the man hunting her and the man she was trying to save. The assassin moved toward her with predatory slowness. Nowhere to run, little healer. His scarred face twisted into something resembling a smile. I have waited years for this moment. Veratis's mind raced. Behind her, the thunder of hooves grew louder. The king's guards were closing in. Ahead, the assassin and his dark wolves blocked any escape. And all around her, the innocent people of Thornhallow were preparing to fight a battle they could not win. Kavrin. She forced his name past numb lips. That was your name, was it not? Before. The assassin paused, surprise flickering across his ruined features. You remember? I remember everything about that night. Veratis's voice steadied as she spoke. I remember the darkness inside you, the hatred, the poison you had been feeding for years before you ever raised a blade against the king. Pretty words from the woman who made me into this. Kavrin gestured at his scarred face. When you pulled the darkness from your precious king and shoved it into me, you had no idea what you were creating. I was trying to save a life. And in doing so, you destroyed mine. He stepped closer. Do you know what it feels like to carry a king's darkness? His rage? His capacity for violence? I was a simple assassin before that night. Now I am something far worse. The hoofbeats were deafening now. Veratis could feel Corvain through the bond, his presence like a sun rising on the horizon. He was close. So close. Whatever you are planning, she said quickly, it will not work. The king's guards will cut you down before you can touch me. Will they? Kavrin's smile widened. Or will they find a village full of exiles harboring the woman their king has been searching for? A woman standing beside known criminals and dark practitioners? He laughed softly. I wonder which story the court will believe. Horror dawned. He was not just here to capture her. He was here to frame her. You planned this, Veratis breathed. You led them here deliberately. I have been tracking you for months, waiting for the perfect moment. When I heard the king had finally mobilized his entire guard to find you, I knew the time had come. Kavrin spread his arms wide. Now we simply wait for your beloved king to arrive and witness his precious shadowmate surrounded by enemies. Either he kills us all, or you watch innocent people die, or he hesitates, and I take what I came for. I will not let you hurt these people. Then come with me willingly. Kavrin extended his hand. Give yourself up, and I will call off my wolves. The villagers live. The king finds nothing but an empty settlement. Everyone wins. Except me. You were never going to win, little healer. You bound yourself to a king who marked another woman. Your fate was sealed the moment you touched him in that forest. The first of the royal guards burst through the tree line. Everything happened at once. Kavrin's wolves surged forward. The villagers raised their weapons. Screams erupted as the two forces collided in a chaos of claws and steel. And then, he was there. Corvain rode through the battle like a force of nature, his wolf barely contained beneath his skin. His eyes found her instantly, cutting through the chaos with laser precision. The moment their gazes locked, the bond between them blazed so hot that Veratis nearly collapsed. He was more beautiful than she remembered, and more terrifying. Stand down! His voice thundered across the clearing, carrying the full weight of an alpha command. Every wolf, guard, and villager alike froze in place. Even Kavrin's dark wolves hesitated, their bodies trembling against the compulsion. Corvain dismounted and strode toward her, his eyes never leaving her face. Veratis wanted to run, she wanted to hide. But the bond held her in place, rooting her feet to the ground as he approached. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the exhaustion carved into his features, the shadows beneath his eyes, and the gauntness of his cheeks. The curse was already taking its toll. Veratis. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer. Your Majesty, her voice cracked. You should not have come. You think I had a choice? Something raw and desperate flickered in his gray eyes. I have searched for you every moment since that ceremony. I have torn my kingdom apart. I have abandoned my council, my duties, and my marked queen. All because your name is the only thing I can think, the only word I can speak, the only— He stopped himself, jaw clenching. What did you do to me? Nothing you did not do to yourself. Lies. He stepped closer and she felt the cold radiating from him. Not the natural warmth of an alpha, but something wrong, something frozen. I felt you at the ceremony. The moment I marked Amaris, I felt you, as if you were the one I was claiming instead of her. You marked the wrong woman, Veratus whispered, but not by choice. Corvain went very still. What does that mean? This was it. The moment she had been dreading. The truth that would either save him or destroy them both. In the Wildwood, all those years ago, she began, her voice barely audible. You were dying. Assassins had poisoned their blades with something dark, something that was killing you from the inside. Your guards were too far away. No healer could have reached you in time. I remember nothing of that night. Because I made sure you would not. Veratus's hands trembled at her sides. I found you bleeding out. And I did something I should never have done. I used my gift to absorb the darkness from your wounds. I pulled the poison out of you and into myself. Understanding dawned slowly in his eyes. You saved my life. I did more than that. Her voice broke. When I absorbed your darkness, something else came with it. A piece of your soul. And in exchange, I left a piece of mine inside you. The shadow bond. Yes, it formed that night without either of us knowing. A connection so deep that nothing could sever it. Tears burned in her eyes. You were supposed to forget me. You were supposed to live your life, find a proper mate, and rule your kingdom. The bond was dormant. It would have stayed dormant forever. Then why did it activate? Because I was foolish enough to attend the ceremony. The tears spilled over now, tracking down her cheeks. I wanted to see you one last time. I thought watching you claim someone else would finally quiet the bond. Instead, the moment you marked her while I was present, everything went wrong. The Sundered King curse, Corvain said quietly. Veratus's head snapped up. You know, I have spent the past fortnight reading every ancient text I could find. A king divided between his marked mate and his true mate cannot survive. His soul tears itself apart. His gray eyes burned into hers. You ran to save me. I ran because staying would kill you. And yet running is killing me anyway. He reached for her then, his cold hand cupping her face with devastating gentleness. The touch sent shockwaves through the bond, warmth and ice colliding in her chest. I felt nothing when I marked Amaris, Corvain said roughly. Nothing. She is beautiful, she is noble, and she is everything a queen should be, and I feel absolutely nothing for her. His thumb brushed her cheek, catching her tears. But your name is the only word I speak in my sleep. Your face is the only image I see when I close my eyes. You are the first thought I have upon waking and the last thought I have before unconsciousness claims me. That is the bond talking, not you. Is it? His hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer. Or is the bond simply showing me what was always true? That you are mine, Veradis? Mine in a way that has nothing to do with magic or curses or ancient connections. Mine because something in my soul recognized something in yours the moment you touched me in that forest. You did not choose wrong, Veratus whispered, her resolve crumbling. You were made to choose wrong. Corvain's brow furrowed. What do you mean? The assassins who attacked you in the Wildwood, their leader survived. She glanced toward where Kavrin stood frozen among his wolves, still held by the Alpha command. He has been hunting me ever since. He knew about the shadow bond. He knew what would happen if you marked someone else while I was present. Corvain's expression darkened. You are saying the attack at the ceremony was orchestrated. not the attack. The ceremony itself. Veratus gripped his wrists, desperate for him to understand. Someone manipulated you into choosing Amaris. Someone ensured I would be present when you marked her. Someone wanted the curse to activate. Who? I do not know, but Kavrin does. She turned toward the scarred assassin. And he came here tonight to use me against you. Corvain released her slowly, his entire demeanor shifting from desperate lover to cold king. He turned toward Kavrin, and the temperature in the clearing dropped several degrees. You, Corvain commanded. Speak. Who hired you to attack me all those years ago? Kavrin's scarred face twisted with hatred, but the Alpha command forced the words from his lips. I cannot say. Cannot or will not. Cannot. Blood trickled from Kavrin's nose as he fought the compulsion. A binding spell. If I speak the name, I die. Then you are useless to me. Corvain raised his hand, claws extending, ready to end the assassin's life. But Veratus caught his arm. Wait. He said he cannot speak the name, but perhaps I can see it. She looked at Kavrin with grim determination. I absorbed darkness from the king all those years ago. I could do the same to you. Pull the binding spell out. See whose magic created it. Kavrin's eyes widened with genuine fear. You would destroy yourself. The darkness inside me is far worse than what you pulled from him. Perhaps. Veratus stepped toward him, but it is the only way to learn the truth. Veratus, no. Corvain caught her hand. I will not let you sacrifice yourself. She turned to face him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to truly see him. This beautiful, broken king who had torn his kingdom apart to find her. This man whose soul was intertwined with hers in ways neither of them fully understood. The curse is already killing you, she said softly. I can feel it through the bond, the cold spreading through your body, the way your heart struggles with every beat. If we do not find who did this and why, we will both die. Then we die together. But I will not watch you walk into darkness alone. You may not have a choice. Something shifted in the shadows behind Kavrin. Veratus saw it a second too late. One of the dark wolves, moving despite the Alpha command, driven by magic stronger than compulsion. It lunged toward Corvain's exposed back, claws aimed at his spine. Veratus did not think. She threw herself between them, the claws raked across her shoulder, and she screamed as darkness exploded into her system. Not natural pain, magical corruption, the same poison that had nearly killed Corvain all those years ago. She collapsed into his arms, and the last thing she saw before unconsciousness claimed her was his face, twisted with anguish, his cold lips forming her name over and over like a broken prayer. Veratus woke to firelight and the scent of winter pine. She was lying on something soft, blankets piled around her body, a fire crackling nearby. The pain in her shoulder had faded to a dull throb, and when she shifted, she felt bandages wrapped tightly around the wound. Do not move. His voice came from the shadows. She turned her head and found Corvain sitting in a chair beside the bed, his elbows braced on his knees, his gray eyes fixed on her face. He looked exhausted, hollowed out, as if the past hours had aged him years. Where am I? Her voice came out hoarse. A hunting cabin, one of my private retreats in the Wildwood. He did not move toward her. The village is safe. Marin is tending to the wounded. My guards have Kavrin in custody. How long was I unconscious? 2 days. 2 days. Veratus tried to sit up, and pain lanced through her shoulder. She gasped, and Corvain was beside her instantly, his hands gentle as he eased her back against the pillows. The poison, she managed. Did it? Your gift absorbed most of it before it could spread. His jaw tightened. You nearly died, Veratis. The healer said she has never seen anyone survive that much dark magic. I have had practice. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, guilt. Because of me. Because you absorbed my darkness all those years ago. Because I chose to save you. She reached for his hand and he flinched at her touch. Corvain. What is wrong? You have been calling my name in your sleep. His voice was rough, barely controlled, begging me not to leave, crying out whenever I stepped away from the bed. He finally met her gaze, and she saw the torment there. The bond has strengthened. Whatever happened when you took that poison, it deepened the connection between us. Veratis could feel it now. The thread in her chest was no longer a thread. It was a rope, a chain, an unbreakable tether binding her to this man in ways she could not escape. I am sorry, she whispered. Do not. His hand tightened around hers. Do not apologize for saving my life. Do not apologize for caring about me. The only thing I cannot bear is your absence. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. I have spent 2 days watching you fight for your life. I have felt every moment of your pain through the bond, and I have made a decision. What decision? I am going to break my mark with Amaris. Veratis's heart stopped. You cannot. Breaking a mark is agonizing, forbidden, potentially fatal. He nodded grimly. I know. I have read the texts. But I also know that the curse will kill us both if I remain divided. And between a marked queen I feel nothing for, and a shadow bond that consumes my every thought. The choice is clear. The court will never accept it. Your counsel can burn for all I care. Fire blazed in his gray eyes. I am done making choices based on duty and expectation. I chose Amaris because she was appropriate, because my advisors suggested her, because I believed I could never feel anything real, so it did not matter who wore my mark. His voice dropped. I was wrong. Corvain, you are the only thing I have felt in my entire life. He rose from the chair and sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from his skin. Before you, I was empty. I performed the role of king, but I felt nothing. No joy, no sorrow, no desire. I thought I was broken, incapable of connection. The curse, Veredis realized. It has been affecting you since childhood. Since birth. His smile was bitter. The Ashvale bloodline carries a price. Power beyond measure, but hearts frozen solid. We cannot feel as other wolves feel. We go through the motions of life without ever truly living. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Until you. When you absorbed my darkness in that forest, you took something else with it. The ice around my heart. The curse that has plagued my family for generations. That is why you are so cold, she breathed. Your body, your skin. It is the curse fighting to reclaim what I took. Yes, and every day since the shadow bond activated, the cold has been spreading. Eventually, it will freeze me completely. He met her gaze steadily. Unless you help me break it. How? The same way you broke it before, by absorbing the darkness. He took both her hands in his, but this time, willingly, knowingly, with a complete exchange of souls. Veratis understood what he was asking. A complete exchange meant a full bonding. Not just the shadow connection they shared, but a true mate bond. The kind that merged two wolves into one being. The kind that could never be broken except by death. If we do this, she said slowly, there is no going back. Your mark on Amaris will sever automatically. The court will demand explanations. Your enemies will use it against you. I do not care. And the curse. If absorbing your darkness kills me, it will not. His hands tightened on hers. I will not let it. I will pour every ounce of my power into protecting you. Whatever it takes. Whatever it costs. Why? The question burst from her before she could stop it. Why would you sacrifice everything for me? You barely know me. We have spoken more words in the past 2 days than we have in all the years since the Wildwood. Corvain released her hands and cupped her face instead, tilting her head up to meet his gaze. Because I have loved you since the moment I woke from death and found myself dreaming of a woman I had never met, he said quietly. Because your face has haunted me for years, appearing in every quiet moment, every sleepless night. Because when I marked Amaris and felt nothing, I knew something was missing. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I did not know your name. I did not know your face. But I knew you existed. And I have been searching for you my entire life. Tears spilled down Veratis's cheeks. I am not beautiful, she whispered. I am not noble. I have nothing to offer a king. You have everything. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. You have courage that puts warriors to shame. You have a gift for healing that has saved countless lives. You have a heart so pure that you would sacrifice yourself to save a man who has given you nothing but pain. You have given me hope, she admitted. Even when I tried to forget you, you were always there. A warmth in my chest when the world felt cold. A light when everything seemed dark. Then let me give you more. His lips brushed against hers, feather light. Let me give you everything I am, everything I have. My kingdom, my crown, my frozen heart. All of it. Yours. Veratis closed the distance between them. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative. But the moment their lips met, the bond between them exploded. Warmth flooded her body, pushing back the lingering cold of the poison. She felt his emotions pouring through the connection. Years of longing, of searching, of desperate hope finally fulfilled. He deepened the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair while the other wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. She gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, drinking her in like a man dying of thirst. Veratis. Her name was a growl against her lips. Tell me to stop. Tell me you do not want this. I want this. She pulled him closer, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. I want you. I have wanted you since that night in the wildwood. Something broke in him then. The careful control he had maintained shattered, and suddenly he was everywhere. His hands mapping her body through the thin fabric of her sleeping gown. His mouth trailing fire down her throat. His cold skin warming wherever it touched hers. She should have stopped him. She was injured, weak, in no condition for this. But the bond was singing in her chest, drowning out every rational thought. All she could feel was him. All she could want was more. He pulled back just enough to look at her, his gray eyes blazing with something she had never seen before. Desire, need, love. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, he said hoarsely. Veratis laughed through her tears. You have not seen me properly. The light. I see you perfectly. He touched her face, her hair, the scar on her shoulder from old wounds. Every part of you, every flaw you think you have, every secret you have tried to hide. His hand moved to her heart, pressing against the bond that pulsed beneath her skin. This is beautiful. You are beautiful. She wept then, unable to stop herself. No one had ever looked at her like that. No one had ever wanted her like that. Her entire life, she had been invisible, unwanted. The daughter of a disgraced lord, tolerated but never loved. And now a king was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Do not cry. He kissed her tears away, one by one. Please, do not cry. I cannot help it. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. I have loved you for so long. I never dared hope. Hope now. He kissed her again, deep and claiming. Hope for everything. I will give it to you. All of it. They came together slowly, reverently. Every touch a question, every response an answer. The bond guided them, showing each exactly what the other needed. When the last barriers between them fell away, Veratis cried out, and Corvain caught the sound with his mouth, swallowing her pleasure as if it were his own. Because it was. Through the bond, they felt everything together. Every sensation doubled, reflected, amplified. His cold and her warmth, mingling into something new, something whole. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her. The fire had burned down to embers, casting dancing shadows across the walls. The bond, Varadis murmured. It feels different. Stronger. His voice was sleepy, satisfied. More complete. She lifted her head to look at him, and her blood turned to ice. Dark lines were spreading across his chest. Not the familiar cold of the Ashvale curse, but something else. Something that looked like roots or veins crawling beneath his skin. Corvain. She touched the marks, and he flinched. What is this? He looked down at himself, and for the first time since she had known him, she saw fear in his eyes. The curse, he said quietly. It is not retreating. It is fighting back. Fighting back? Against what? Against you. He met her gaze, and she saw the truth there, the terrible, devastating truth. When you absorbed my darkness all those years ago, you weakened the Ashvale curse. It has been trying to reclaim what it lost ever since, and now that we have bonded fully, I have made it worse. Horror flooded through her. By strengthening our connection, I have given the curse more to fight against. It is not your fault. What have I done to you? She pulled away, staring at the dark lines spreading across his skin. Every time I try to save you, I make things worse. Every time I touch you, the curse grows stronger. Varadis. I should never have come to that ceremony. Tears streamed down her face. I should have stayed hidden forever. I should have let you live your life without ever knowing I existed. Then I would have died empty and alone. He caught her hands before she could flee. Listen to me. Whatever this curse is, whatever it takes to break it, we face it together. You are not leaving me again. But together. He repeated fiercely. You are mine now, Varadis, and I am yours. No curse, no conspiracy, no power in this world will change that. She wanted to believe him. Gods. She wanted to believe. But the dark lines were still spreading, and through the bond, she could feel the cold creeping deeper into his heart. Whatever they had awakened, it was only beginning. 3 days passed in the hunting cabin. 3 days of stolen moments and whispered confessions. 3 days of learning each other in ways the bond had only hinted at. But also 3 days of watching the dark marks spread across Corvain's body, creeping closer to his heart with every passing hour. The healers from Thornhallow came and went, but none could identify the curse. Even Marin, with her decades of experience, could only shake her head in bewilderment. It is not natural magic, she told Varadis privately. It is something else, something old, something that was placed on the Ashvale bloodline generations ago. Can it be broken? Every curse can be broken. Marin's eyes were troubled. But the breaking often costs more than the curse itself. On the 4th morning, Varadis woke to find Corvain standing by the window, staring out at the forest. The marks had reached his shoulders now, dark tendrils wrapping around his throat like fingers. You should be resting, she said. I received word from the capital. His voice was flat. Amaris has called a council meeting. She is demanding my return. Varadis's stomach clenched. And? I have 3 days to present myself before the throne. If I do not, she is threatening to declare me unfit to rule and install herself as regent. She cannot do that. She can. He turned to face her, and she saw the exhaustion carved into his features. As my marked queen, she has certain rights. If I am deemed incapacitated, those rights expand considerably. Then we go back. We face her together. No. The word was sharp, final. You stay here. Hidden. Safe. I am not hiding while you will do as I say. His eyes blazed with sudden fire. Amaris knows about you, Varadis. She knows I have found my shadow mate. If you return to the capital with me, she will have you arrested as a traitor. On what grounds? On grounds that you used dark magic to enthrall the king, that you orchestrated the curse to steal the throne. His laugh was bitter. She has been building the case for weeks. Witnesses who claim to have seen you practicing forbidden arts. Documents suggesting your father's treason was tied to a larger conspiracy. all fabricated, but convincing enough for a court eager to believe the worst. Veratis's blood ran cold. She planned this. From the beginning. Corvain crossed to her and took her hands. Amaris never loved me. She wanted power. The crown. The throne. When I showed no interest in her after the marking, she began looking for ways to secure her position without me. The assassination attempt in the Wildwood, Veratis breathed. Was she involved? I do not know, but I intend to find out. He cupped her face, tilting her gaze up to meet his. That is why you have to stay here. If I return alone, Amaris will believe she has won. She will let her guard down. And I will be able to learn the truth about who orchestrated all of this. And if the curse kills you before you find it, then at least you will be alive? That is not good enough. Veratis gripped his wrists. I am not losing you, Corvain. Not after everything we have survived. You will not lose me. The curse is slow. I have time. You are lying. She could feel it through the bond, the cold creeping deeper, the darkness spreading faster than he wanted to admit. You have days, not weeks. Maybe less. Corvain was silent. There is something you are not telling me, Veratis continued. Something about the curse. Something you have discovered. For a long moment he did not respond. Then he pulled away from her and crossed to the table where a stack of ancient texts sat waiting. I found this in the royal archives before I left to search for you. He opened one of the books to a marked page. A record of the original Ashval curse, written by the first king himself. Veratis moved to his side and read the faded script. Her heart stopped. The Ashvale bloodline shall reign eternal, she read aloud, but their hearts shall be frozen. No king of this line shall feel love, for love weakens resolve and clouds judgment. This curse I place upon myself and all my descendants that our dynasty may never fall to sentiment or softness. He cursed himself, Corvain said quietly. My ancestor, the first Alpha King. He willingly sacrificed his capacity for love to ensure his descendants would rule with cold logic instead of warm hearts. That is why you could not feel anything before me. The curse prevented it. Yes, but there is more. He turned the page. Read the rest. Veratis's eyes scanned the text, and horror flooded through her. Should any king of Ashvale blood find his true mate, she read, her voice trembling, the curse shall awaken fully. The frozen heart shall fight to remain frozen. The darkness shall spread until it consumes all warmth. And unless the source of the curse is destroyed, both king and mate shall perish in eternal winter. The source of the curse, Corvain said. The original binding that my ancestor created. It still exists somewhere. And as long as it does, the curse cannot be broken. Where is it? I do not know. The text does not say. But Kavrin might. His jaw tightened. He has been working with whoever orchestrated this conspiracy. If anyone knows where the original binding is hidden, it is him. Then we interrogate him. I intend to. But first, I need you to understand something. Corvain closed the book and turned to face her fully. The curse activated because of our bond. Because I found my true mate. Which means I am the one who triggered it. Veratis felt the blood drain from her face. When I absorbed your darkness in the Wildwood, I weakened the curse's hold on your heart. I gave you the ability to feel, and that ability led you to me. You did nothing wrong. I did everything wrong. She backed away from him, her mind reeling. Do you not see? Every step of this has been my fault. I saved your life, and that created the shadow bond. The shadow bond led you to feel things you were not supposed to feel. Those feelings led you to search for me. And now the curse is killing you because you found me. Veratis, I am the source of your destruction. Tears streamed down her face. If I had never touched you in that forest, none of this would have happened. You would have marked Amaris and felt nothing, just like you were supposed to. You would have ruled for decades without ever knowing what you were missing. You would have been safe. I would have been empty. Corvain crossed to her and gripped her shoulders. I would have been a shell, a frozen king on a frozen throne, going through the motions of life without ever truly living. His eyes burned into hers. You gave me a reason to exist, Varadis. You gave me hope, love, a future worth fighting for. A future that is killing you. Then it is a death worth dying. He pulled her against his chest, holding her tight. I do not care what the curse does to me. I do not care if it freezes me completely. You are worth every moment of pain, every day of cold. You are worth everything. You cannot mean that. I mean it more than I have ever meant anything. He pulled back just enough to look at her face. I love you, Varadis. Not because of the bond, not because of fate or destiny or ancient magic. I love you because you are kind and brave and strong. I love you because you sacrificed everything to save me, not once, but twice. I love you because when I look at you, I finally understand what all those poets were trying to describe. She was sobbing now, unable to stop. I do not care what you are, he continued fiercely. I do not care what you have done. You could tell me you were the witch who originally cursed my bloodline, and I would still love you. Nothing you say, nothing you reveal, will ever change that. You do not understand. She gripped his shirt, her whole body shaking. There is more. Something I have not told you. Then tell me. She took a shuddering breath. When I absorbed your darkness all those years ago, I did not just take the poison from your wounds. I took something else. A piece of the curse itself. Corvain went very still. Your healer, Marin. She helped me understand. Varadis forced herself to continue. My gift absorbs darkness, pain, corruption. When I used it on you, I pulled out the heart of the Ashvale curse, the part that was actively keeping your emotions frozen. That is how I was able to feel. Yes, but the curse did not disappear. It went into me instead. She pressed her hand against her own chest. Since that night, I have been carrying a piece of your family's curse inside my own body. And when the shadow bond activated, when we completed our connection, the two pieces of the curse recognized each other. Understanding dawned in his eyes. They are trying to reunite. The curse in you is spreading toward your heart because it is being drawn toward the piece of the curse in me, and the piece in me is fighting to escape, to return to its source. Tears streamed down her face. We are killing each other, Corvain. Our bond, our love, it is pulling the curse together. And when the two pieces finally meet, they will merge. His voice was hollow. And destroy us both. Yes. Silence fell between them. Through the bond, she felt his emotions churning. Shock, grief, determination. And beneath it all, burning steady and unchanged. Love. Then we find the original binding, he said finally. We destroy the source of the curse before the two pieces can reunite. It could be anywhere, hidden for generations. Kavrin knows. He has to know. Corvain's jaw set with renewed determination. He has been working with someone who understands this curse intimately, someone who manipulated events to ensure the curse would activate at the worst possible moment. Amaris. Perhaps. Or someone using Amaris as a puppet. He took her hands. Either way, we will find them. We will destroy the binding. And we will break this curse, Varadis. Together. You still want to face this with me? Even knowing that I am carrying the very thing that is killing you? Especially knowing that. He pressed his forehead against hers. You have been carrying my burden for years without complaint. It is time I started carrying it with you. A sob escaped her throat. I love you. I know. He kissed her tears away. I love you too. And nothing, not curses or conspiracies or the combined forces of hell itself, will change that. She wanted to believe him. Gods, she wanted to believe. But through the bond, she felt the cold spreading, the darkness creeping closer. And deep in her own chest, The piece of the curse she carried was awakening, reaching toward its other half with hungry, patient determination. The clock was ticking, and they were running out of time. They rode for the capital at dawn. Veratus had refused to stay behind, despite Corvain's protests, despite the danger waiting for her in the royal court. She would not let him face this alone. The bond between them made separation physically painful now. More than that, she knew the truth. If she was not beside him when the curse reached its peak, they would both die anyway. Better to die fighting than hiding. The journey took 2 days. 2 days of watching the dark marks spread further across Corvain's body. 2 days of feeling the cold deepen in his chest. By the time the spires of the capital rose on the horizon, the tendrils had reached his jaw, creeping toward his face like frost on a winter window. "We should have interrogated Kavrin before we left," Veratus murmured as they approached the gates. Brennick extracted what he could and sent the evidence ahead by messenger. Corvain's voice was rougher now, strained by the cold spreading through his throat. "But I suspect Kavrin is merely a pawn. The true enemy is waiting for us inside those walls." The gates opened, and they rode through streets lined with silent citizens. Word had spread. The king had returned with his shadow mate, the mysterious woman who had stolen his heart from his marked queen. Veratus felt their stares like physical weights. The palace loomed before them, beautiful and terrible. Amaris was waiting on the steps. She was stunning, as always. Golden hair perfectly arranged, gown of royal blue cascading down the marble stairs. But her eyes were cold, calculating. The eyes of a predator watching prey walk willingly into her den. "My king," her voice carried across the courtyard. "How gracious of you to finally return." Corvain dismounted and helped Veratus down, keeping her close to his side. "I received your summons." "Summons?" Amaris's laugh was musical and cruel. "I merely expressed concern for my husband's welfare. You have been gone for weeks. The kingdom has been in chaos, and now you return with—" Her gaze slid to Veratis, dripping with contempt. This is Lady Veratis Halloran." Corvain's arm tightened around Veratis's waist. "My true mate." Whispers erupted among the assembled courtiers. Amaris's expression flickered, then smoothed into practiced calm. "Your true mate." She descended the steps slowly, each movement deliberate. "How fascinating. And here I thought I was your mate, given that you marked me before the entire kingdom. A mistake I intend to correct." "Correct?" Amaris stopped 3 feet away, her eyes blazing. "You cannot simply correct a royal marking. The bond is sacred. Unbreakable." "Not unbreakable." Corvain held her gaze steadily. "Merely difficult to sever. And given that you orchestrated the circumstances that led to it, I believe the council will be sympathetic to my petition." Amaris's mask slipped for just a moment. Fear flickered in her eyes before she regained control. "Orchestrated?" She laughed, but it was hollow now. "What wild accusations has this witch been whispering in your ear?" "The truth." Veratus stepped forward, and the courtyard fell silent. "Years ago, assassins attacked the king in the Wildwood. One of them survived. Kavrin. He has been in custody, and he has told us everything." Amaris's face went pale. "He told us about the conspiracy," Veratus continued, "about the plan to ensure the king marked a chosen puppet instead of finding his true mate. About the binding spell that kept him silent, cast by someone with access to the royal archives. This is absurd. He told us about the curse." Veratus took another step forward. "The original Ashvale binding, the one your family has been guarding for generations." Complete silence. Corvain turned to stare at Veratus. "What?" "I did not know until Brennick's messenger arrived with Kavrin's confession." Veratus kept her eyes on Amaris. "The Valdrin family. They have been the keepers of the original curse binding since it was first created. That is why your ancestor chose them as allies. They were entrusted with the source of the Ashvale power." "That is a lie," Amaris spat. "Is it?" Veratus reached into her cloak and withdrew a small leather journal. "This was found in Kavrin's possessions. a record of communications between himself and someone in the Valdrin household. Someone who knew exactly how the curse worked and exactly how to manipulate it. She opened the journal and began to read. The king must mark my daughter at the ceremony. If the shadow mate is present when he does, the curse will activate fully. The frozen heart will fight to reclaim its power, and when it does, the king will die, leaving Amaris as queen regent. Enough! Amaris lunged forward, claws extending, but Corvain caught her wrist before she could reach Varadis. The game is over, Amaris. His voice was ice. Your conspiracy has failed. Failed? She laughed, wild and desperate. Look at yourself, Corvain. The curse is already killing you. Even if you arrest me, even if you burn my entire family to the ground, you will still die. The curse cannot be broken. You are wrong. Varadis stepped between them. Every curse can be broken. Cavern's journal reveals where the original binding is hidden. Amaris's eyes widened. That is impossible. I never wrote— You did not have to. Varadis held up the journal. But your father did, and Cavern kept very detailed records of his instructions. For the first time, genuine terror crossed Amaris's features. The binding is in the Valdrin family crypt, Varadis said. Hidden beneath the tomb of your ancestor, the one who made the original pact with the first Ashvale king. If we destroy it, the curse ends. You cannot. Amaris shook her head frantically. If you destroy the binding, you destroy the source of the Ashvale power. Corvain will lose everything. His strength, his authority, my frozen heart? Corvain released her wrist and stepped back. I would rather feel everything and rule with a warm heart than feel nothing and reign as a monster. He turned to his guards. Take her. Confine her to her chambers until the council can convene a trial. No! Amaris screamed as the guards seized her. You do not understand. If you break the binding, the curse will not simply end, it will fight back. The accumulated darkness of every Ashvale king will be released at once. Corvain paused. Generations of frozen emotions, Amaris continued, her voice raw. Centuries of suppressed feeling. All of it will flood into you at once. No one could survive that. Then I will die feeling everything instead of nothing. Corvain nodded to the guards. Take her away. As Amaris was dragged into the palace, still screaming threats and warnings, Varadis gripped Corvain's arm. She might be right, Varadis said quietly. If centuries of darkness releases at once, then you will absorb it. His gray eyes met hers. The way you absorbed my darkness all those years ago, the way you have been carrying a piece of this curse ever since. Corvain, that much darkness could destroy me. It will not, because I will be there, and through our bond, we will bear it together. He cupped her face, his cold hands gentle on her skin. No more carrying burdens alone, Varadis. Not you. Not me. Together. She wanted to argue. She wanted to protect him from the risk. But time was running out. The dark marks had reached his temples now, spreading toward his eyes. If they waited much longer, there would be nothing left to save. Together, she agreed. They rode for the Valdrin estates that same hour. The family crypt was ancient, carved into the hillside centuries ago. Dust and cobwebs covered every surface. The air smelled of decay and old magic. Varadis felt the binding before she saw it. A pull in her chest, where the piece of the curse she carried had lived for years. It was reaching toward something, straining against her control. The source was close. Here. Corvain stopped before a massive stone tomb. The name carved into it had worn away with time, but the magic radiating from within was unmistakable. Together they pushed the lid aside. Inside, nestled among ancient bones, lay a crystal heart. It was beautiful and terrible, black as midnight, shot through with veins of silver that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Cold radiated from it in waves, the same cold that had plagued Corvain's body his entire life. The original binding, Varadis breathed. Destroy it, Corvain said. But as Varadis reached for the crystal, The piece of the curse inside her surged forward. Pain exploded through her body. She screamed, collapsing to her knees as the darkness she had carried for years ripped free, shooting toward the crystal heart like iron to a lodestone. Veratus! Corvain caught her as she fell, but he was screaming too. The curse in his body was responding, the dark marks blazing with sudden light as they tried to reunite with their source. They were being torn apart. The curse was using their bond against them, pulling the pieces of itself together through the connection between their souls. Let go, Veratus gasped. Corvain, let go of me. Never. The curse is using our bond. If we stay connected, it will merge inside us before we can destroy the source. Then we destroy it now. He grabbed her hand and pressed it against his chest, directly over his heart. Together. Take it from me. Take all of it. It will kill you. It will kill us both if we do not try. She had no choice. The curse was ripping them apart from the inside. In moments, there would be nothing left. Veratis closed her eyes and opened herself fully to her gift. She pulled. The darkness came flooding out of him, a torrent of ice and pain and centuries of frozen emotion. It poured through their bond and into her body, joining the piece she had already carried, merging into a single terrible mass. The weight was unbearable. The cold was absolute. She felt her heart slowing, her breath failing. But she kept pulling. Every shadow, every frozen memory, every suppressed emotion from every Ashvale king who had ever lived, all of it flooding into her, filling her until she thought she would shatter from the pressure. And then, when she had absorbed everything, she turned toward the crystal heart and released. The darkness exploded out of her, a beam of pure shadow that struck the binding with devastating force. The crystal screamed, a sound like breaking ice, like dying stars. Cracks spread across its surface, and then it shattered. Light flooded the crypt. Warmth. Feeling. Veratis collapsed, completely empty. She heard Corvain calling her name, felt his arms around her, felt something else. Something she had never felt before. Warmth. True warmth. Radiating from his skin like summer sunlight. The curse was broken, but when she tried to open her eyes, darkness claimed her instead. She woke to the sound of arguing. Veratis kept her eyes closed, her body too exhausted to move. Voices filtered through the fog of consciousness, sharp and worried. She has been unconscious for 3 days. We should send for more healers. No more healers. Corvain's voice, rough with exhaustion. Marin said she needs rest. The darkness she expelled nearly destroyed her. And if she does not wake? Silence. She will wake. His voice cracked. She has to. Veratis forced her eyes open. She was in a grand chamber, sunlight streaming through tall windows. The bed beneath her was soft, the sheets silk. And beside her, holding her hand, was Corvain. He looked different. The dark marks were gone. His skin had color now, flushed with warmth instead of pale with cold. And his eyes, those gray eyes that had always seemed so distant, were bright with unshed tears. Veratis. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer. You are warm, she whispered. A broken laugh escaped him. I am. For the first time in my life, I am actually warm. She reached up to touch his face, and he leaned into her palm, his eyes closing. The curse? She asked. Broken. Completely. He opened his eyes. You did it. You absorbed centuries of darkness and destroyed the source. The Ashvale bloodline is free. And Amaris? Awaiting trial, along with her father and brother. The entire Valdrin family was complicit in the conspiracy. His jaw tightened. They have been manipulating my bloodline for generations, ensuring we remained cold, controllable, using the curse to keep us dependent on their guidance. Kavrin. Executed. He tried to escape custody and killed 2 guards in the attempt. Corvain's expression darkened. He was too dangerous to let live. Veratis nodded slowly, processing everything. How long was I unconscious? 3 days. His hand tightened on hers. 3 days of not knowing if you would ever open your eyes again. 3 days of feeling our bond and not knowing if you were still on the other end of it. I am here. She squeezed his hand. I am not going anywhere. Promise me. His voice was fierce. Promise me you will never sacrifice yourself like that again. I cannot promise that. Veratus. I will always protect you, she said quietly. Just as you will always protect me. That is what it means to be bonded. To be mates. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned down and kissed her, deep and desperate, pouring 3 days of fear and hope into the connection between them. When he pulled back, they were both breathless. There is something I need to tell you, Corvain said quietly. What? While you were unconscious, the council convened. They reviewed all the evidence against Amaris and her family. They also reviewed... He hesitated. They reviewed your history, your father's treason charges, the accusations against you. Veratus's heart clenched. And? All of it was fabricated. His voice was gentle. The Valdrin family orchestrated your father's downfall 20 years ago because they feared his connection to the healers who understood shadow bonds. They saw you as a threat before you were even born. My father was innocent? Yes. And so were you. Corvain cupped her face. The council has formally cleared your name. Your family's lands and titles have been restored. You are no longer the daughter of a disgraced lord. Tears spilled down her cheeks. 20 years. 20 years of shame and ostracism and hiding. All because of a conspiracy she never knew existed. There is more, Corvain continued. The council also reviewed my marking of Amarise. Given the evidence of manipulation and conspiracy, they have ruled it invalid. The mark has been formally annulled. Annulled? Veratus's heart skipped. Is that even possible? When evidence of magical manipulation is proven, yes. He smiled, and it transformed his face. Without the cold, without the curse, he looked younger, softer, beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. I am no longer bound to Amaris Valdrin. I am free to mark my true mate. Corvain, I know we have only had days together, he said quickly. I know there is still so much we do not know about each other. But I have loved you for years without ever seeing your face. I have searched for you across an entire kingdom. I have torn apart everything I built to find you. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. This was my mother's, he said, opening it to reveal a ring of twisted silver set with a stone the color of midnight sky. She died when I was young, before the curse fully took hold. She told me to give it to the woman who made me feel, who warmed my frozen heart. Veratus could not breathe. Be my queen, Veradis. His voice broke on her name. Not because of duty or politics or ancient bonds. Be my queen because I love you. Because you are brave and kind and strong. Because you carried my darkness for years without complaint. Because when I look at you, I finally understand what it means to be alive. Yes. The word burst from her before he could finish. Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Then he pulled her into his arms and held her so tight she could barely breathe. I love you, he murmured against her hair. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. She pulled back to look at his face. I have loved you since the moment I found you dying in that forest. I think I would have loved you in any life, in any world. Then let us make this life count. He kissed her forehead. Let us build something together. A kingdom ruled by warmth instead of ice. A future where no child has to grow up with a frozen heart. The curse is truly broken? For all your descendants? Yes. He rested his hand on her stomach, and she startled at the gesture. Marin examined you while you were unconscious. She found something else. Something wonderful. Veratus's heart stopped. We are going to have a child, Corvain said softly. A child who will never know what it means to be cold. A child who will feel everything, love without limit, live without chains. She wept then, not from sadness, but from joy so overwhelming it had nowhere else to go. A child, their child, free from the curse that had plagued his family for generations. The door opened, and a guard entered with a bow. "Your Majesty, forgive the interruption. There is a visitor requesting an audience with Lady Veratus." Corvain's expression hardened. "Who?" "Lady Seraphine Halloran, Your Majesty. She says she is Lady Veratus's sister." Veratus's blood ran cold. Seraphine, the sister who had denounced her, the sister who had called her a murderer and wished her dead. "Send her away," Corvain said immediately. "No." Veratus gripped his arm. "Let her come." "Veratus, after everything she said about you." She believed the lies the Valdrins spread. She did not know the truth. Veratus took a steadying breath. "If we are building a kingdom of warmth instead of ice, perhaps that starts with forgiveness." Corvain studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded to the guard. "Send her in." Seraphine entered the chamber slowly, as if expecting to be thrown out at any moment. She looked different from the last time Veratus had seen her. Older, worn. The haughty confidence that had always defined her was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like shame. "Veratus." Her voice trembled. "I heard what happened. The trial, the evidence, everything the Valdrins did to our family." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I came to beg your forgiveness." "Seraphine, I believed them." Her voice broke. "For 20 years I believed their lies. I called you a murderer. I wished you had never been born. She fell to her knees. "I was your sister, and I failed you in every way a sister can fail." Veratus looked at this woman who had once been her greatest tormentor, who had made her childhood a misery, who had turned their entire family against her. And she saw not a villain, but a victim. Another pawn in the Valdrins' long game. "Stand up, Seraphine." Her sister looked up, confusion in her tear-streaked face. Stand up," Veratus repeated gently. "I do not want your guilt. I do not want your shame." She reached out her hand. "I want my sister back. If she is willing." Seraphine stared at the offered hand as if it might bite her. Then, slowly, she took it and rose to her feet. "I do not deserve your forgiveness," she whispered. "Perhaps not. But I am giving it anyway." Veratus squeezed her hand. "We have both been victims of the same conspiracy. We have both lost years to lies and manipulation. I do not want to lose any more time to hatred." Seraphine pulled her into a fierce embrace, sobbing against her shoulder. Corvain watched from the bed, his expression soft with something that looked like pride. "Thank you," Seraphine whispered. "Thank you, Veratus. I will spend the rest of my life proving I am worthy of your forgiveness." "Start by being my sister," Veratus said simply. "That is all I have ever wanted." When Seraphine finally left, promising to return the next day, Corvain pulled Veratus back into his arms. "That was brave," he said quietly. "That was necessary." She rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "If we are breaking curses, we might as well break all of them, including the ones we place on ourselves." He kissed the top of her head. "My wise queen." "Not queen yet." "Soon." His arms tightened around her. "Very soon." 6 months later, the Great Hall of Valanthos was transformed. Where the choosing ceremony had once displayed eligible mates like wares at a market, now it blazed with celebration. Flowers cascaded from every pillar. Candles flickered in crystal chandeliers. Music swelled from the gallery as hundreds of guests filled the space. This was not a choosing. This was a coronation. Veratis stood at the entrance, her heart hammering against her ribs. The gown she wore was nothing like the drab cloak she had hidden beneath 6 months ago. Ivory silk cascaded to the floor, embroidered with silver thread that caught the light like stars. Her hair was piled atop her head, woven with moonflowers and tiny crystals. She looked like a queen. She felt like an imposter. Breathe. Marin appeared beside her, adjusting the train of her gown. You have faced assassins and curses and centuries of accumulated darkness. A room full of nobles should be nothing. The nobles are not what worry me. Veratis pressed a hand to her stomach, where the swell of pregnancy rounded her gown. What if I am not ready for this? What if I fail? You will not fail. Marin squeezed her hand. You are exactly what this kingdom needs. A queen who understands suffering, a queen who fights for the forgotten, a queen who carries fire in her heart and warmth in her soul. The doors began to open. That is your cue. Marin stepped back. Go claim your crown, child. You have earned it. Veratis walked into the great hall. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. Hundreds of wolves watched as she made her way down the center aisle, alone this time by choice. No father to give her away. She needed no one's permission to claim her place. And at the end of the aisle, waiting on the raised platform where another woman had once stood to be chosen, was Corvain. He was resplendent in formal black, the royal crest emblazoned across his chest in silver thread. But it was his face that made her breath catch. The warmth in his eyes. The smile that transformed his features from cold beauty to something achingly tender. He was looking at her like she was the only person in the room. She reached the platform and took his outstretched hand. His skin was warm against hers. Warm. Still a miracle after all these months. You came, he murmured. Did you doubt me? Never. He lifted her hand to his lips. But I will never stop being grateful that you chose me. The priest cleared his throat. The ceremony was elaborate, filled with ancient words and ritual gestures. Veratis barely heard any of it. She was too focused on Corvain's face, on the bond singing between them, on the new life growing inside her. Do you, Veratis of House Halloran, accept the crown of Valanthos? The priest intoned. Do you swear to rule with wisdom and compassion, to protect this kingdom and all who dwell within it? I do. Do you accept the king's mark? Do you bind yourself to him as mate and queen, now and for all eternity? I do. Corvain stepped forward, and the hall fell silent. I claim you, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. Veratis, my true mate, my shadow bond, my queen. He tilted her head gently, exposing the curve of her throat. And this time, I choose correctly. His fangs descended. The moment they pierced her skin, the bond between them blazed into completion. Not the empty marking he had given Amaris, but something real, something eternal. She felt him flooding into her. His love, his devotion, his fierce determination to protect her. And she flooded into him in return. The hall erupted in cheers. Corvain pulled back, licking the wound closed, his eyes blazing with triumph and love. Then he lifted the crown from its cushion and placed it on her head. My queen, he announced to the assembled crowd, the true queen of Valanthos. The cheering intensified. Wolves bowed and curtsied. Somewhere in the crowd, Veratis spotted Marin wiping tears from her eyes, and near the front, standing tall with a genuine smile on her face, was Seraphine. In the months since Veratis's recovery, they had rebuilt their relationship slowly. Awkward conversations had given way to easier ones. Old wounds had begun to heal. Seraphine had taken a position helping Marin establish the new healing academies, determined to make amends through action rather than words. She was not the sister Veratis had always wanted, but she was becoming the sister Veratis needed. Veratis caught her eye and smiled. Seraphine smiled back, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. The reception lasted hours. Veratis danced with Corvain until her feet ached. She accepted congratulations from nobles who had once whispered about her in corridors. She ate food she was too happy to taste and drank sparkling cider that made her pleasantly warm. And when the celebration finally wound down, Corvain took her hand and led her to the balcony. The same balcony where they had watched the sunrise together in the hunting cabin. The same view of the kingdom spread out beneath them like a tapestry of lights. Tired? He asked, exhausted. She leaned against his chest, but happy. So unbelievably happy. Good. He wrapped his arms around her, resting his hands on her stomach. Because you are going to need that happiness. This kingdom needs a great deal of work. The healing academies? Opening next month. Marin has agreed to oversee the training programs. He pressed a kiss to her hair. No more binding magic. No more forcing children to suppress their gifts. Everyone with power will be taught to use it responsibly. And the choosing ceremonies? Abolished. His voice was firm. No wolf will ever be treated as property again. Matings will be by choice, by true compatibility. No more arranged bonds for political convenience. Veratis smiled. They had discussed these changes endlessly over the past months, reimagining a kingdom that had been frozen for too long, thawing traditions that had caused so much suffering. And Amaris? She asked quietly. Corvain's arms tightened around her. Exiled, her family stripped of all titles and lands, they will spend the rest of their lives in the outer territories, far from any position of power. You did not execute them. No. He was quiet for a moment. I considered it. After everything they did, everything they planned. But you taught me something, Veradis. What? That mercy is not weakness. That forgiveness, even when undeserved, can be strength. He turned her in his arms to face him. Killing them would have been easy, letting them live with their failure, watching everything they built crumble, seeing the kingdom they tried to control flourish without them. That is a far more fitting punishment. You have changed. You changed me. He cupped her face, his warm hands gentle on her skin. Everything I am now, everything good in me, comes from you. You thawed my frozen heart. You taught me to feel. You showed me that love is not weakness but the greatest strength there is. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. He kissed her softly. I will love you until the stars burn out and the mountains crumble to dust. I will love you in this life, and every life that comes after. Promise? I swear it on our bond, on our child, on everything we will build together. She kissed him then, deep and sweet, pouring all her love into the connection between them. When she pulled back, the moon was rising over the kingdom. Silver light spilled across the land, illuminating fields and forests and villages where people were finally free. Do you remember? Veradis said softly, the night of the choosing ceremony, when I watched you mark another woman and ran? I remember feeling you vanish, feeling something tear inside me that I did not understand. I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting you by staying hidden, but I was wrong. You did what you had to do. Perhaps. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. But I spent so long hiding, so long believing I was a burden, a curse, something to be ashamed of. And now? She looked up at him, this beautiful man who had torn his kingdom apart to find her. This king who had sacrificed everything, defied everyone, to claim her as his own. Now I understand, she said. I was never a curse. I was never a burden. I was simply waiting for you to choose me. I choose you. His voice was fierce. Today and tomorrow and every day until the end of time. I choose you, Veradis. Only you. Always you. She smiled and it felt like sunrise. Behind them, the celebration continued. Ahead of them, a kingdom waited to be transformed. Inside her, new life grew, the first child of a new era. But in this moment, there was only him. Only them. Only the bond that connected their souls and the love that had survived curses and conspiracies, and years of separation. She watched him choose another mate. They would say in stories for generations to come. Then she vanished, and the Alpha King tore the kingdom apart to find her. But that was only half the truth. The rest of the story, the part that mattered, was what came after. When he found her. When he chose her. when they built a kingdom of warmth together, one sunrise at a time. Thank you for listening to this story. Let me know what you thought. I always read your comments, and they mean more than you know.